Growing up, I learned two things real quick. Don't ask mom for help unless you're bleeding or it's Sunday morning and the coffee hasn't kicked in yet. If your brother has a bowling tournament the same day as your event, just cancel yours. It wasn't written down anywhere. Just understood. A kind of unspoken family policy. Like, no singing at the table. Or, don't mention Aunt Cora's third husband. My name's Derek. I'm 25, live in a small town called Elm Ridge. Population, don't hold your breath waiting for a Whole Foods. And I recently passed my journeyman certification exam to become a licensed electrician. Not a glamorous title, but to me, it felt like Everest. I'd been studying for 2 years. Working full-time during the day, apprenticing at night, and carving out hours between overtime and stress headaches to memorize codebooks that looked like legal tomes written by caffeinated robots. No family help. No free rides. Just coffee, busted knuckles, and a whiteboard in my studio apartment covered in acronyms like NEC and GFCI. My brother Kyle, on the other hand? He bowls. Not professionally. Just constantly. If there's a tournament within 60 miles, Kyle's in it. Doesn't matter if it's for prize money, beer coupons, or a plastic trophy shaped like a mullet. He's there. And so is my family. Always. Like groupies for the most average man alive. He's 22. Still lives at home. Works part-time at a vape shop. Once told me, "Dude, I just don't want to stress. I'm allergic to pressure." Which is ironic, considering how hard our parents press me. Derek's the serious one. They always say. Kyle? He's our little wild card. Right. Wild card. Whose laundry mom still folds and whose car insurance somehow evaporates into thin air. When I first told my parents about the certification ceremony, I tried to keep expectations low. It was being held at the Community Tech Center. No red carpet. Just a folding chair with my name on it, and a sheet cake that had, "You did it!" written in all caps like someone yelling congratulations with buttercream. "Next Saturday at 5, I said over dinner. "You don't have to dress up or anything. Just be there. Please." My mom blinked. "Next Saturday?" I nodded. Kyle didn't look up from his phone. "That's the regional semis." My dad frowned. "Yeah, buddy, that's kind of a big one for Kyle." "Oh?" I said. "So?" "Well," my mom said, voice dipping into her classic "we're about to soft reject you" tone. "We can't really be in two places at once. And Kyle's been working toward this all season. He's been bowling." I muttered. "What was that?" Dad asked. "Nothing. We're proud of you, Derek," Mom said. "You know that. But Kyle's tournament is a social event." I finished. Got it. And that was it. No offer to split shifts, no suggestion to alternate. Just a shrug and a clink of silverware against ceramic. The rest of the week was silent on their end. No follow-ups. No. "We're trying to figure something out." Just radio silence while Kyle practiced curve shots and picked out neon-colored wrist supports like he was prepping for the Olympic qualifiers. I wasn't surprised. But I was still disappointed. Which, honestly, might be worse. You'd think I'd be used to it by now, the subtle hierarchy. The way Kyle could crash a car into a mailbox and get sympathy, while I'd get a lecture for not mowing the lawn straight. But something about this felt different. Final. Like I had quietly passed the point of still trying to impress them. That Friday night, I stood in my apartment, looking at the suit I'd rented for the ceremony. Not because it was required, but because I wanted to look like someone worth showing up for. Someone who built something from the ground up, even if no one clapped. I ironed the shirt myself. Polished my boots. Packed my ID and sat in silence for a long time, staring at my own reflection in the microwave door because I didn't own a full mirror. Then I turned off my phone. Not out of spite. Just to avoid the silence. The Community Tech Center was barely half full when I arrived. Rows of folding chairs, each wobbling slightly like they'd seen better days, or better backsides. The ceremony wasn't flashy. There were no balloons. No big screens. Just a banner that said, Congratulations, graduates! In Comic Sans and a podium so short the speaker had to hunch. Still, I showed up early. I took a seat near the middle, checked my name tag on the back of the chair, spelled correctly, shockingly, and tried not to scan the room for anyone I knew. But I did. Of course I did. Every 5 seconds. Like some pathetic reflex that hadn't gotten the memo yet. To my left, a woman in a navy blazer waved excitedly as her husband walked in with a camera slung around his neck. To my right, a guy in steel-toe boots was beaming at a group of teenagers I assumed were his kids. They all had signs. Big, homemade signs. One said, "Our dad can finally sleep." Another, "Tool Belt King." It was ridiculous. It was beautiful. It wasn't my experience. There was no sign for me. No family. Just a cold plastic seat and the smell of slightly burnt coffee from the refreshment table. I kept checking the entrance, half hoping I was wrong. That maybe Mom would walk in, flustered, still in her work scrubs, mouthing, "We made it!" That Dad would appear, grumbling. Parking was a nightmare, while secretly holding one of those signs behind his back. Maybe Kyle would actually be there, hair slicked, hoodie zipped up for once, pretending like he didn't hate fluorescent lighting. But no one came. The announcer stepped up to the mic. The mic squealed. Someone in the back coughed like they were trying to die quietly. Then the ceremony began. Each name was called with careful emphasis. Every graduate who walked up got a firm handshake, a paper certificate in a navy folder, and polite applause. Some got whoops. Others got full-on standing ovations. When they called my name, Derek Langston, I stood up a little stiffly, wiped my hands on my pants, and walked to the front like I hadn't just been swallowing a knot the size of a toaster. The applause was fine. A few claps. One guy even threw out a, "Yeah, buddy!" But it sounded more like a generic cheer than something meant for me. I took the certificate, shook the director's hand, and turned around, still scanning the crowd. Just in case. Still clinging to that delusion that maybe they were late. Maybe they'd rush in right now and... Nothing. Just some yawns. A camera flash. And a woman in the back digging through her purse for gum. I returned to my seat and sat with the folder on my lap like it weighed 40 pounds. After the ceremony, there was cake. Sheet cake, just like I expected. It was already slightly melting at the corners and the frosting roses had seen some battles. I stood by the edge of the room sipping lukewarm coffee, watching everyone else get swarmed. Family hugs. Selfies. Kids climbing on laps. One guy popped open a bottle of Martinelli's and his wife shrieked like he'd uncorked champagne. No one approached me. I got a slice of cake, found a plastic fork, and sat alone by the window. Took one bite. It was lemon. I hate lemon. I still ate the whole thing. As I was tossing the plate in the trash, I finally turned my phone back on. It took a second. Then another. Then the buzz started. And didn't stop. One buzz. Then 3. Then 5. By the time I looked down, it said 54 missed calls. Mom. Dad. Kyle. Unknown number. Kyle again. Dad again. I blinked. And then one text popped up, a fresh one. From Kyle. One sentence. All caps. Call me now. It's MOM. And just like that, the room faded. The cake, the chairs, the echoing congratulations, all of it slid into the background like someone had hit mute on the universe. I didn't move. Not right away. Because part of me knew, this wasn't about me anymore. And whatever just happened? It was going to change everything. I stepped outside the tech center with my phone gripped so tight I thought I might snap it in half. The air had cooled down, that awkward in-between where it's not quite night but the sky's already given up trying. Streetlights blinked on half-heartedly, one of them buzzing like it had a vendetta against moths. I hovered my thumb over Kyle's message. Call me now. It's MOM. No, congrats. No, hey man, how'd it go? Just panic, raw and uppercase. My heart kicked against my ribs. Not fast, just hard. Like it was trying to signal something before my brain caught up. I hit call. It barely rang once. Derek? Kyle's voice was high. Breathless. Not his usual lazy drawl. It sounded like he just sprinted across a bowling alley dragging his ego behind him. What happened? I asked. Where's Mom? It's bad, man. I think she passed out. We were at the tournament, and she just collapsed in the parking lot. My stomach dropped. I leaned against the wall outside, feeling the rough brick dig into my spine. Is she okay? I whispered. We don't know. Paramedics came. They took her in an ambulance. Dad's riding with her. I'm driving behind. I'm on the freeway right now, man. Which hospital? St. Mary's. Same place you went when you had that ladder thing, remember? Yeah. I remembered. The place where I waited 3 hours with a busted wrist while Mom texted me updates from Kyle's bowling final. Keep me posted, she'd said. I never told her they wrapped my wrist too tight, and I lost feeling in my thumb for a week. Okay. I'll meet you there, I said. Thanks, man. Seriously. He hung up without saying anything else. I didn't move right away. I just stood there, looking down at my suit. My certificate folder still tucked under my arm like some sad little shield. And here's the weirdest part, I hesitated. Not because I didn't care. Not because I wanted something bad to happen. But because this was the first moment all day I had someone's full attention. It took a potential medical emergency for Kyle to call me. For the family group chat, which had been radio silent all week, to finally light up like a Christmas tree. It was disgusting. And it worked. I walked to my truck, tossed the certificate on the passenger seat, and started the engine. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From the emotional whiplash of going from invisible to indispensable in under a minute. St. Mary's was across town. I hit every red light on the way, like the universe wanted to punish me for thinking too long before answering that call. When I pulled into the hospital lot, I parked next to Kyle's car. His back bumper was dented, again, and still no one ever blamed him for it. I rushed inside. The emergency room was lit like a gas station at midnight. Cold, flickering, too bright and too dim all at once. Kyle was pacing in the corner, hair disheveled, hoodie half-zipped. His face lit up when he saw me. Dude! Thank God. He actually hugged me. Full-on arms around shoulders hug. It was the weirdest thing that had happened all week, and that included me eating lemon cake voluntarily. He pulled back. Dad's still with her. They're doing tests. They think it might be her heart. I blinked. She never had heart issues. I know. But she was complaining about pressure all day. Didn't tell anyone until we were leaving. That tracked. Mom never told anyone anything until she was halfway into collapse. Even then, she'd apologize for causing a scene. A nurse walked by. Kyle immediately grabbed her arm. Any news on June Langston? Still being evaluated, she said gently. Someone will update you soon. He sat. I sat next to him. There was a silence. Then Kyle said, Hey, I'm sorry we missed your thing. I glanced at him. I mean, obviously, we didn't plan for this to happen. But, you know, I was gonna call after. I swear. After bowling? I asked. He winced. Yeah. I stared at the floor tiles. They were that weird speckled color you only see in hospitals and schools. Kyle cleared his throat. Did you still go? To your ceremony? Yeah. And? Was it cool? It was a folding chair, a lemon cake, and a certificate. I paused. No one clapped louder than the coffee machine. Kyle looked away. And in that moment, something shifted. Because he wasn't just embarrassed. He was scared. Whatever happened to Mom, it scared him. Badly. And maybe, just maybe, he realized the one person who always had his back might not be as available anymore. I leaned back in the chair, crossed my arms, and said nothing. Because for once, silence was mine to give. The waiting room at St. Mary's was the kind of place that tried too hard to be calming. Muted pastel walls. Soft instrumental music playing overhead. Chairs that looked like they came from a dentist's office clearance sale. None of it worked. Everyone still looked like they were either about to cry or yell. Kyle had gone quiet. He sat with his elbows on his knees, phone dangling from his hands, staring at the floor like it had answers. Every few minutes he mutters something about the nurses not moving fast enough, like he expected them to sprint out with answers between blood pressure checks. Me? I just watched. Not the clock. I stopped caring about time hours ago. Just the people. A guy in paint-splattered overalls nervously scrolling. A mom with 3 kids trying to hush them with lollipops. An older woman holding a bouquet of slightly wilted flowers. Everyone was waiting for something. Then Dad walked in. I recognized him by the sigh before I even looked up. He looked older. Tired. His hair was slightly flattened on one side like he'd been running his hands through it for the past hour. When he saw us, his steps slowed. Kyle jumped up. Well? She's stable, Dad said. I exhaled. They're keeping her overnight. Might be a minor cardiac episode, but they're not calling it a heart attack yet. Tests are still out. Kyle nodded rapidly. Can we see her? Soon. They're moving her to a room now. Then Dad's eyes flicked to me. No nod. No smile. Just a half-second pause like he didn't expect me to be there, or didn't quite know how to feel about it. Hey, I said. Hey. Silence. Then, you came. Of course I did. He looked down at my clothes. Weren't you? Yeah. I was. Kyle suddenly looked between us like he'd walked into a live wire. He started. I'm gonna grab a soda. Want anything? We both shook our heads. Kyle disappeared toward the vending machines, leaving me with the man who once told me, "You're too intense. Just learn to relax like your brother." Dad scratched the back of his neck. How'd it go? The ceremony? Yeah. It was fine. People show up? No. He didn't flinch. Didn't look guilty. Just nodded like he'd expected that answer and was trying to figure out how to not make it worse. We were gonna call after, he said. Didn't think this would. You don't have to explain, Dad. He hesitated. I do, actually. I tilted my head. That was new. He sat down across from me. His eyes were glassy, but not in a crying way. More like someone realizing they left the stove on 20 years ago. I've been so focused on keeping things moving, he said. On Kyle. On your mom. On making sure no one feels like a failure. He paused. Except you. That caught me. You always seemed capable, he said. Like no matter what we didn't give you, you'd just figure it out. You did everything without asking for help. It was easy to forget you still needed it. I didn't say anything. Because part of me was angry he thought that was a compliment. I'm proud of you, Derek, he said. I don't say it enough. Or maybe ever. No, you don't, I said. And when you do, it's usually after something breaks. He chuckled. Fair. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he added, When your mom woke up, you know the first thing she asked? What? If you were there. I blinked. Seriously? She was panicking. Kept saying, Did Derek come? Like she thought this was her last shot to make it right. I swallowed the knot forming in my throat. Hard. Before I could respond, Kyle came back juggling 2 sodas and a bag of trail mix like it was a sacred offering. He looked at us. Did I miss something? Dad looked at me. And for the first time in years, maybe ever, I saw it. Regret. Not dramatic. Not tear-filled. Just sitting there on his face, quiet and undeniable. And I realized something. Maybe I'd been so busy building a life away from them. I never gave them the chance to realize they missed it. The hallway to Mom's room smelled like antiseptic and cheap soap, the kind that never quite gets the stickiness off your hands. I followed Dad and Kyle in silence, the kind of silence that feels like you're all walking through a fog no one wants to break. Room 312. Dad pushed the door open slowly, like she might be asleep. But she wasn't. She was sitting up, propped by 3 pillows, her hair slightly matted on one side and a thin plastic oxygen line under her nose. Her eyes lit up the second she saw us, especially me. Derek. That single word. Not said casually. Not just, "Oh, hey, there you are." But almost like an apology baked into my name. I stepped in. Kyle rushed to her side first, took her hand, started babbling about how the vending machine wouldn't take crumpled bills and how he was going to stay all night on the stupid recliner chair beside her bed. She nodded, smiled faintly at him, then looked at me again. "You came," she said. "Of course I did," I answered. She looked at Dad, then back to me. "You look good. Sharp. Had to, right? Big day." Her expression dimmed for a second, like she remembered all over again that she'd missed it. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. I shrugged, trying not to feel the burn rising behind my eyes. "Not your fault." "No, but it is," she said. "I've been meaning to come to something. Anything. Every time, I tell myself we'll catch the next one. That we've got time." She looked down at her hands. "But then I end up watching Kyle bowl for the 7th time in a month instead of asking how you're doing." "It's okay," I muttered. "It's not," she said. "And it never was." Kyle shifted awkwardly. "Mom." She squeezed his hand. "You're not the problem, sweetie." Then she looked at me. I always thought you didn't want us there." I blinked. "What?" "You were always so self-sufficient. Quiet. Like you didn't need us. Like you'd already left the moment you turned 18. I stared at her. "I didn't leave. I got tired of asking." That hit the room like a dropped wrench. She nodded slowly. "I know. And I wish I'd noticed before now." For the next few minutes, no one said much. I sat by the bed, close but not too close, and we just existed. Together. In the way families do when words feel heavier than they're worth. Eventually, Kyle dozed off in the chair. Dad left to make some calls, but I knew he just needed space. Mom turned to me. "Do you remember your 6th grade science fair?" I laughed. "The baking soda volcano?" "You were so excited," she said. "Built that thing in the garage for 2 weeks. Used all the flour. Your dad was furious. He thought I was cooking. He was hoping for pancakes." She smiled. "And when we couldn't come to the fair because of Kyle's ear infection, you never said a word. Just walked home, threw the volcano in the trash, and said you were tired." I remembered that. I hadn't thought about it in years. "You looked like you were already gone," she said softly. "Even then. And I think I just accepted that version of you. The one who didn't ask anymore." She reached out, her fingers brushing mine. "I should have pushed harder. Should have fought for a seat at your life. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Do you know how many things I did hoping someone would show up?" I said, my voice breaking. "How many open doors I left, that no one walked through." She nodded. "I know now." "I do." We sat there. Not healed. But maybe less broken. A nurse came in to check her vitals, smiling politely as she adjusted wires and typed into a monitor. I stepped back, gave them space, then wandered out into the hallway. Pulled out my phone. Checked the group chat. 57 new messages. But none of them were from me. For the first time in a long time, they were all talking about me. And maybe, just maybe, they were finally ready to listen. We got home from the hospital the next afternoon. Dad insisted on driving Mom back himself, even though she offered to Uber. She said she felt fine. He didn't trust fine anymore. Kyle followed behind in his car like a security escort. I took my truck. There was something symbolic about us all arriving separately. Like pieces of a machine that hadn't run in sync for a while. When we pulled into the driveway, the weirdest thing happened. Dad turned to me and said, "You staying for dinner?" It was such a simple question. But from him, it felt like a pop quiz with emotional consequences. "Yeah," I said. "Sure." Inside, the house looked exactly the same as it had 12 years ago. Same beige walls. Same fake fern in the corner. Same ceramic rooster that had somehow survived 3 shelf falls and 1 earthquake. But the vibe was different. Carl didn't flop on the couch. Mom didn't head straight for the laundry room. Dad didn't turn on the TV and tune the rest of us out. Instead, Mom sat in the kitchen and watched as Dad cooked. Like actually cooked. He opened a cookbook. Measured stuff. Burned 1 pot and didn't even swear. "What is happening?" I whispered to Kyle as we set the table. "Dude," he whispered back. "I think we're in a parallel dimension." Then he held up 2 identical plates and asked, "Which one's the fancy one?" We laughed. Together. Like actual brothers. It was weird. And good. And weirder because it was good. Dinner was basic: overcooked pasta, garlic bread that could break a window, and salad drowning in ranch, but it felt like a feast. For once, there wasn't a spotlight on Kyle. There wasn't a subtle jab at me either. They actually asked questions. "How's work? What's the certification mean now? More projects? Do you still work with that grumpy guy? What's his name?" "Rick," I said. "And yes. He's still allergic to smiles." They laughed. Then Kyle surprised me. He pulled something out of his hoodie pocket. A gift bag. "You didn't get cake yesterday," he said, sliding it across the table. "So we figured belated celebration." I opened the bag cautiously, expecting socks or a gag gift. Inside was a mug. Plain white. Blue lettering. "World's okayest electrician." I laughed. Hard. "Found it at that weird store in the outlet mall," he said. "Figured it was either this or the one that said shocking personality with a lightning bolt." Mom smiled. "We got you a real gift, too. But it's not ready yet." I raised an eyebrow. "A real gift?" "You'll see." After dinner, Kyle helped clean up. Without being asked. That alone nearly caused an eclipse. I sat with Mom on the couch while she sipped chamomile tea and lectured me about sodium like she hadn't just survived a heart scare. "Don't worry about me," she said. "Worry about your brother. That boy thinks a vegetable is a potato chip." "Good point." Then she leaned over and whispered, "But between you and me, I think he's been different lately." I nodded. "So have you," she added. "You walk taller. You don't flinch around us anymore." I didn't know what to say to that. So I said nothing. Just leaned back and listened as Dad cracked a joke from the kitchen and Kyle laughed like he wasn't used to hearing it. Maybe none of us were. Maybe, for the first time in forever, we weren't just existing in the same house. We were actually trying. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of burnt toast and someone humming a 2000s boy band ballad off-key. It was Kyle. In the kitchen. Making eggs like he knew what he was doing. "Morning," he said, flipping something rubbery looking with way too much confidence. "You hungry?" I stared. "You okay? Did you hit your head?" He grinned. "Mom's orders. Everyone's pitching in this week. Even me." She really must have flatlined. "Twice, apparently," he said too casually. "Nurses revived her. She doesn't remember it." I blinked. "Wait, what?" He nodded. "Dad told me last night. Said he didn't want to tell her unless she asked. She hasn't." That sat heavy in the air. Kyle passed me a plate of eggs. I accepted it, even though they looked like they'd been cooked with vengeance. We sat at the kitchen island, munching in silence. Then Dad walked in holding something. A manila folder. He dropped it on the counter like it weighed more than it did. "What's that?" I asked. "Your real gift," he said. Kyle perked up. "Wait, that's what Mom was talking about." Dad nodded. "We've been working on it, secretly. Since February." I looked at him, suspicious. He pushed the folder toward me. "Open it." Inside were documents. Lots of them. Property forms. Deeds. Bank letters. I flipped through, confused. Then I saw it. A plot of land. Not just any land, a 2-acre piece just outside of Elm Ridge. Zoned for commercial use. With my name on it. Wait, what is this? Dad exhaled. It's yours. We've been making payments on it for a while. Originally, it was gonna be for Kyle's food truck idea. What food truck idea? Kyle interrupted. The one you dropped after 2 weeks, remember? Oh, yeah? That. But your mom and I talked. Dad continued. And you've earned something real. Something that's yours. No strings. No will help you if. Just here. A foundation. I stared at him. Why now? Because I realized something. He said. You've been building without a blueprint for years. And we just stood back and watched like that was normal. It's not, Mom added from behind us. She walked in, slow but steady, holding her tea with both hands. We failed you, she said, in ways that don't show up until it's too late. No, I said, shaking my head. You didn't fail me. You just forgot to include me. Kyle looked down. Quiet for once. Mom sat beside me. We want to be in your life, Derek. Not as guests. As family. I looked at the folder again. I'd imagined a lot of things from them. Apologies. Excuses. Even silence. But never this. Land. A gesture that said, we see you. We believe in you. My throat tightened. This isn't some guilt bribe, right? I asked, trying to keep it light. Dad laughed. No. But if it helps with the guilt? Bonus. Kyle grinned. Bro, you could build anything out there. A shop. A studio. A freaking electrical-themed bar. That sounds like a fire hazard. Exactly. Perfect vibe. We laughed. And I realized this was new territory. Not just the land. But them trying. It didn't erase the past. Didn't refill the chairs at my ceremony or undo the years I felt like a ghost at our own table. But it planted something. Something real. And this time, they handed me the shovel. 3 weeks later, the lot had a sign on it. Not a big one. Not flashy. Just a white sandwich board with bold black letters that read, Future home of Langston Electric. No LLC or corporate fluff. Just the name. Mine. I didn't invite my family to the moment I put the sign up. No ribbon cutting. No crowd. Just me, a drill, and a cheap thermos of gas station coffee that tasted like burnt optimism. But still, I sent them a picture after. One group text. No caption. 10 seconds later, Kyle replied, Bruh. Then Mom sent a bunch of emojis, the kind only moms understand. Light bulbs, sparkles, praying hands. No fewer than 3 heart faces. Dad just wrote. Proud doesn't even cover it. I didn't respond. Not right away. I just stared at the photo again, the simple sign, the wide space behind it, the horizon that used to feel so far away. A week later, they all came out to see it in person. Kyle brought energy drinks and wore a hard hat for absolutely no reason. Dad paced like a contractor even though he didn't know a stud from a beam. Mom walked the entire lot and said, You could put a little office here. Or maybe a food truck spot for your brother if he ever stops flaking. We laughed. But under it, there was something real. Something steady. The week after that, I signed the first delivery papers for materials. The week after that, permits were approved. And then, one morning, I woke up to a message from an unknown number. A photo. Taken at night. Of the lot. The sign was now lit up. Someone had added solar-powered spotlights underneath it without telling me. I had a hunch who. Below the photo was one message. Looks better in the dark. Like you do. Finally shining. It was from Mom. No punctuation. Just honest. And for once, that was enough. So yeah? When I won my certification award, no one came. My family went bowling for my brother instead. But as I stepped outside that night, bitter and alone, my phone buzzed. 54 missed calls. And one text that changed everything. Not because they finally saw me. But because they finally stopped trying not to.